Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Continuing my discussion, kind of doing a series here on the problem of communication in business today. Dr. Wayne Pernell, he responded to a request that I had about this topic, and I liked his insight, liked his thoughts on the subject. Dr. Pernell, welcome to the program. Before we get started on our topic, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Good morning, and thank you. I've been doing management consultation and executive coaching for about 30 years. My background is I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I took a left turn with that into business, as I said, about 30 years ago, and began blending the two, business and psychology. Worked with executive teams across the country and have done work with such teams as Schwab, 3Com, Whole Foods Market, AAA, executives at multiple levels, high, middle, and even line staff. I work with individuals. I work with a broad array of teams at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Where did you do your PhD work?
My doctorate, I did my bachelor's at UC Davis, my master's at San Francisco State, and my doctorate is I got in San Francisco at California School of Professional Psychology.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, so so you took that business turn, and I'm telling you, there seems to me to be, when it comes to this whole issue of communication and really poor communication, and how people kind of just fall off the face of the earth. You almost think they got hit by a truck or something, and you simply don't know what happened to them, particularly when it's dealing with stuff that makes them uncomfortable. And a great example is that I talk to a lot of business people who are in a sales process with a potential client, and then things are going really well, rather nicely. Their client is in one location, they're in another location, so email is the most appropriate way to do most of their communication. And all of a sudden, when they're near that point of decision, they don't say, no, we didn't decide to do it at this time, or yeah, but we have to do it 6 months from now. They just disappear. And
Right.
This seems to be a more and more common phenomenon. Are you hearing this and seeing this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting. Two things get in the way. One is that we stop showing up. People in general have stopped showing up. Engagement is so different now that email is an excuse. When, for example, when a person says maybe, the person saying maybe is saying no, no thank you, but they don't want conflict, and so in their mind they've said no because they've said maybe. And in the sales force, the salesperson hears maybe and says, well, there's a chance that means yes. And so...
Yeah, I used to always say that no is short for maybe.
Right.
I always thought that there was a chance that, and now apparently there's been a paradigm shift.
Yes. The other thing is that in person and over the phone, that and especially in America, conversation has become a competitive sport. And so one of the things that's happened in business across the country is that people have stopped listening to each other and really listening to understand what they've begun doing more and more and more. And I think email helps to widen this gap, is that they've become ready to respond rather than ready to listen. And so they'll pick up on one thing instead of, and they'll be ready to jump in with their response to that one thing, instead of really understanding what they're in business for. You know what? I'm in business to help people, and I can't help if I don't know what they want, right? So, So that is a lost art, I think, and it's really time to get back to basics and step up and recognize that no matter what kind of business you're in, it's about service. It's about showing up authentically, and I think that's missing, and it's about service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's interesting is so you're saying one of the primary reasons or motivations behind this is they're trying to avoid conflict, correct?
Yes.
What they've done in many cases is they've kind of created a permanent enemy in a universe that has become smaller than ever, where, people will say, hey, have you ever done business with this guy before? We almost did business together, but he became one of those type of people that just completely didn't communicate. And frankly, I don't do business with people who don't communicate. So what they end up doing is they've got the exact opposite of whatever a raving fan is.
Exactly.
They've actually just, greatly injured themselves reputational wise.
Exactly. And you need to be able to think about, what is communication? Because if it's one way, it's like broadcast. It's not engagement. And so it goes back to who are we to each other? And, the prospect or the person, even within your own company, you have people that you can serve. And so really the communication is about finding out how you can better another person by showing up. And email does widen that gap.
Yeah.
Email is one way, and you really have opportunities to lose engagement through email.
Well, but at the same time, isn't it easier to tell people no now than at any time in history? I mean, 15 years ago, you had to send a fax, if you wanted to do it fast and impersonal, or you had to get on the phone or get an underling to get on the phone, or you had to really work and type a letter. Now, you just shoot an email. Heck, text somebody, but that's better than completely disappearing.
Agreed. I think, totally disappearing is... it's rude.
It's rude, and it's kind of childish, isn't it? Kind of immature.
Yep.
It's crazy.
It's back to basics. It's again, who are we to each other, and how do we not burn bridges? I think that we're in such a fast-paced society now that it's easy enough to go, well, on to the next thing, and I think people disappear on email when they don't value the potential of the relationship and at least say, no, thank you. Mm-hmm. Right? So the disappearing is a way of saying, well, I've judged you a certain way.
It's weird. I don't really get it. And yet it's easier. So why are we less conflict oriented now than we were 20 years ago? And again, you're not mitigating or reducing conflict. You're actually creating more of it in a universe that's way smaller than just a couple of decades ago, where, one person's in Chicago, the other is in New York City. But because of things like social media, we are next door neighbors. I mean, I don't get it. How do you explain the phenomenon?
It's an interesting paradox that you point out, that in an effort to avoid conflict, we create it. I don't know that I can explain the phenomenon other than, that the ability to text not only brings us closer, the ability to have email not only brings us closer, but because it is a long-distance vehicle, it's the same as road rage in some way. We can yell at another driver because we'll never see them again.
Right.
We can, right? And so, or you can ignore somebody on email because, what the heck, they're not of value to you, so you'll never see them again. Instead of being polite, instead of, as I said, back to basics, with at least be polite enough to say no thank you.
Right. I don't get it. It's really weird. And if I think it's a book in the making, to be honest with you, because it's such a huge thing that I didn't used to see. And I don't know if it's a character defect or if it's something to do with society's development of individuals and in classrooms. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And this is one of the reasons why I got you on. And although you weren't able to answer it, you kind of reflected more light on it. And I appreciate that. How do we get more information about what you're doing?
Well, thank you. I actually have a book that may pertain. It's called Choosing Your Power. Choosing Your Power. It's available online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. So, and it's available in Kindle format as well. So that goes into the idea of how do you step into your greatness? How do you use communication? How do you use certain language that will bring you closer? So as an individual, how do you develop your relationships? How do you develop your leadership? So Choosing Your Power is available. Also, you can find out more about me at my website, WaynePernell.com, W-A-Y-N-E, Pernell, P-E-R-N-E-L-L.com, WaynePernell.com.
Thanks so much for being with us. I enjoyed it.
Kevin, I really appreciated it too. Thank you so much.
When we come back, we're going to have much more for you. Do want to remind you the best content here. It shows up over there at usdatingreview.com. While there, like it on Facebook, follow it on Twitter. Remember, you're listening to The Price of Business.